Correct your intentions. We started talking about what makes the deal binding or final. We talked about what's binding from both sides. And we still want to talk about what's binding from one side and non-binding from the other. Or what's just non-binding from both sides. And then we'll move on, insha'Allah ta'ala, to talk about actually wording your contract. So the author says binding from one side, non-binding from the other. So the second type when it comes to binding is what we just said. This includes the contract for the slave to buy his freedom. It's because if you're the master and you did the contract with your slave to buy his freedom, then you can't get out of that. Whether you're the master or the mistress, whether your slave's male or female, you can't get out of that, but the slave can get out of it. So it's binding from one side, which is your side as the master, non-binding from the other side, which is the slave side. Unless you're the slave, then it's your side that's non-binding. You can break that and stay a slave. And the gift of the parent to the child, the gift of the parent to the child is non-binding. That means the parent can take the gift back. No one else can, though. Once you give that gift, once someone gives a gift to another, then it's his. It's done and final when he takes it. If he takes that gift with permission, then it's his gift. It's binding. It's final now. Unless the giver was the parent, then it's not binding. And collateral after taking possession. You put up collateral for a debt. Because remember, collateral has to be an object against a debt. Object then means what? A car, a house, or anything else that's an object. A debt means what? Like you owe money or you owe work. That's a debt too. You owe work. That's a debt. So you can put up an object as collateral against the debt. Then, if the other one takes that object, now it's binding from your side. You're the one putting up the collateral. You can't get out of this. And the other one that you owe, he can get out of it. And he can just tell you, take your collateral back. It's fine. Just pay me back later. So then remember, you cannot put a debt up as collateral against the debt. Not valid. And you cannot put an object up as collateral against an object. Not valid. What is that? How's that? That's like if you let someone hold something of yours. So someone said, let me hold your car. Let me hold your bike. Let me borrow this book. That's an object. So you can't say, okay, bud, give me collateral. You put up your fish tank. That big fish tank you have. You put up that big fish tank and I'll let you hold my bike. And then you give me my bike back and then I'll release your fish tank. So this is not valid. Collateral is by putting up an object against a debt. So it should be clear for you. You're going to be dealing with either an object or you're going to be dealing with a right. The right is not an object. Dealing with a right, like what? Our go-to example of dealing with a right is like having the right of water, having the right to have water routed to your land. That's a right, not an object in particular. Basically, when you pay for your water, you pay for your electricity, all that stuff's being routed to you, isn't it? So you're paying for a right. Your dealings are going to be either around this one or that one, an object or a right. So the right's going to be a debt, for example. The right's going to be work, for example. Right means benefit. Okay. So collateral, that's binding from one side, non-binding from the other side. And what else? Co-signing. Co-signing is when you guarantee someone else's debt. Guaranteeing someone else's debt, not as an enforcer, as a backup. So, for example, your child comes to you and says, "Oh, my beloved parents, I want to take a loan, and they won't give me one unless I have a co-signer. Would you please co-sign for me?" So that means now you're putting yourself at risk. But you say, "Oh, beloved child of mine, I will co-sign for you for the sake of Allah." And then you do it. So now, this is binding on you, non-binding on the one who's owed the debt. You can't get out of it. But that one can release you. So that's binding from one side, non-binding from the other side. So when it comes to co-signing, one is relieved when the debt is paid or forgiven. Now, non-binding from both sides, that means either side can get out of it at any time. The third, non-binding from both sides, it includes authorization. You authorize someone, which is another word of saying power of attorney. Power of attorney is authorization. That means someone's doing something for you. That means you authorize someone to do something for you. So you can just take that authorization back at any time, and that person can just drop that authorization, yani renege or refuse it after having accepted it. It's non-binding from both sides. So a scenario is for you to say to that person, "Do such and such for me." So now he's authorized. If he just goes and does it, he doesn't even have to answer you. He can just go and do it. And then you could say at any time, "You're no longer authorized." Or that person can say, I no longer want this authorization. So it's non-binding from both sides. Also, lending items. Non-binding from both sides. Even if you gave him a time limit. So you said, "You can hold this book of mine for a month. You can hold my VHS tape for 2 weeks." At any time, even before the time is over, you can go back and say, "Give it back to me." And that person can say, "I don't want it anymore." So it's non-binding from both sides. So even before the expiration of the specified time. And profit sharing is non-binding from both sides. So it's an alternative to the binding hiring. Profit sharing is what? Profit sharing is when one person has the money and the other person does the trading. One person has the money, the other one does the trading. That's it. He doesn't do anything else, just trading. You don't say to him, "Take this money, go buy wheat grains, pulverize it into flour, bag up the flour, and then go sell it on the market." Because that's more than trading. Only trading. So that's like saying, "Take this money, go buy the flour and sell it on the market." And that's it. So this is profit sharing, and how much you get paid based on the percentage. Based on a percentage. So you say, we'll split it 50-50 or 70-30 or whatever it is you agree on. This type of deal is non-binding from both sides. This is not hiring. Ijara. When you say to the person, I hire you for this time, or I hire you for this task, and your salary is such and such, that's not profit sharing. Hiring is binding from both sides, and you don't pay him a percentage. You pay him a known salary. Profit sharing is non-binding from both sides, and you don't pay him a known salary. You pay him a percentage. And it's restricted to trading. These are all immediately nullified by death, insanity, and fainting. And some added becoming restricted. Any question there? Now we're going to talk about the statements, which is the agreement, or it is the contract itself. Yani, it is the deal itself. The wording. Deals other than gifts and charities require audible statements. Other than gifts and charities. So gift and charity, yani, you know the difference between them. A gift is for rapport. And a charity is a handout. Yani, it's for assistance. But they have the same appearance. The difference is the intention. So deals other than gifts and charities require audible statements. So when we say other than gifts and charities, that means you can give a gift or a charity without a statement. If you just put the money in the hand of the one you want to give to, and that's it, and he takes it, and you don't say anything and he doesn't say anything, that's valid. Deals other than gifts and charities require audible statements from one or both sides. And when we say an audible statement, that doesn't mean that the person you're dealing with is the one who has to hear you. No, because maybe someone else can hear you. And then he tells that one. That's still valid. So it has to be an audible statement from one or both sides. When does the statement only have to be from one side? We'll see. And when does it have to be from both sides? We'll see. And we just now said when it doesn't have to be from either side, a gift or a charity. And this statement, it could be explicit statement. What's going to make it explicit? Like when you name the deal in your wording. Exactly, with its original name. Like you say, I buy this from you. I sell this to you. I rent this from you. I hire you. That's explicit. Or it could be implicit, like saying, let me get this for $5. So what does that mean, let me get this? You really mean, sell it to me. That's still valid. But not when the contract needs for you to say a specific word, like marriage. For marriage, you have to say, I marry my daughter to you. I give my daughter in marriage to you. Or I give Fulana in marriage to you. Or I marry her to you. Or I give her to you in matrimony. Or in wedlock. Yani, that's all that means the same thing. Has to be explicit. You can't say, I give my daughter to you for the dowry of such and such. It's not valid. And you can't say, I gift my daughter to you for the dowry of such and such. Also not valid. So in the case of marriage, you need to say, marriage. And in the case of, yeah, I'll keep it there for now. But for other deals, I'm not saying all other deals with no exception, just marriage. This is general words I'm saying now. For other deals, it couldn't be implicit with the intention, and it's going to still be valid. Like a divorce. He might say, "You're divorced," so that's explicit. Or he might say, "Cover yourself in front of me," and he means to divorce her. That's not explicit, but if he had the intention, then it is a divorce. So a sale is like that too, or other types of deals. Or it could be indirect. Indirect. Like saying, "Set your slave free for me for such and such." Set your slave free for me for such and such. It's indirect. And then the owner responds. So the owner sets him free. What does that mean? That means there was a sale there. Got that? Set your slave free for me for 500. So then he set him free. So that means there was a sale there. That's valid. The mute makes understandable gestures, like sign language. And what is understandable to everyone is explicit. Now, writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not to replace it. Yani, not to stand in its place. That's contrary to non-Muslim practice. For non-Muslim, writing is the superior, or it is the authoritative contract. You have two types. The non-Muslims, they do believe in something called verbal agreement. It's true. They don't deny that there's something called verbal agreement. But to them, verbal agreement is inferior to written agreement. For us, verbal agreement is superior to written agreement. And then someone might think, how's that? It's very easy, because a lot of people can't read. And even some people that can read, their reading level's not high. And you know those contracts. They put clauses in there. They put fine print in there. They put words in there that you don't understand. And they get you all the time, especially online. They'll have a piece, they'll have a contract, and then they'll have a piece of the deal somewhere else in the website. On purpose, they do that type of stuff. So that way they can deceive you until you catch on. Then when you catch on, then maybe they will fix it, or maybe they'll keep you there and they'll say, you should have read it. You should have got your lawyer to look at it. As opposed to what? Very easy. As opposed to sitting down with the person and saying, our agreement is A, B, and C. Do you understand? Says, yes, I understand. Do you accept? Yes, I accept. Okay, that's it. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing tricky. If there were words that's not clear, then if you're going to sit down and read through the whole contract with the person and say this and this and this, and he's going to say, wait, what does that mean? You're not going to say to him, go ask your lawyer. Go take it home and think about it. No. So that's why verbal contract is superior to written contract. But for the kuffar, written is superior because somebody's going to deny, and then they're going to have to go to court. And then the judge is not going to know what to do, or he's going to judge in some way based on some clue. So writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not replace it. That's why when you do some contract with a kafir, he has something on paper that's not valid. Just, if you're going to put your signature on that paper, Just do a verbal contract with him. Tell him, listen, I'll sign my name on this paper for you, but I need you to do this for me. See, I'm a Muslim, and this is the way I deal. Like this and this. And this thing here, I can't agree to that. So just here, agree with me like this, and I'll sign the paper for you though. If you do like that, you're going to have a valid contract because verbal contract has priority over written contract. And if you find yourself in such a circumstance, then what you have to do is you have to have a spine. You have to stand your ground. You can't be scared. You can't say, if I say this, he's going to think I'm a weirdo. I'm just going to agree to this invalid contract and repent to Allah. Don't do that. Doesn't matter if he thinks you're a weirdo. Better for you to get a valid contract and he thinks you're a weirdo than for him to think you're a straight up person, but you have an invalid contract. And like we said, a lot of times those are the things that's just going to open the door for dawah for you. Because he's going to say, huh? And he'll say, yeah, see, let me explain for you. See? And then you tell him something that makes sense. Tell him something that's interesting. And he'll say, oh, wow, I never thought about that before. Say, yeah, that's how my religion is. And like that. So writing is to preserve the verbal agreement, not to replace it. Except the mute, then he can't speak. So then he can write. And a written divorce requires an intention. That's important. That includes text. Text is writing. Written divorce requires an intention, even if the written expression is explicit in itself. By virtue of being written, the entire expression gets reduced to non-explicit. So it needs an intention. One woman, she threatened her husband to divorce her with severe injustice if he didn't divorce her. But she didn't know this rule, and he did. And then he wrote a divorce without an intention on purpose. He just wrote it because he knew that without the intention it's not valid. So he wrote it, and then khalas, she wasn't divorced in reality. But she might have thought she was, which is a big problem there. She's going to go and do a contract with another man. The knowledge is so important. So written divorce requires an intention. And some deals require witnesses, like marriage, but not divorcing and not returning. Divorcing and returning don't require witnesses, but marriage does. Now we have a subsection here about consent. That means acceptance. Statements are required in the Shafi'i school because the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ عَنْ تَرَاضٍ. Selling is by consent. That's the hadith. And as Shafi'i, he said, but consent, that's something in the heart. And what is in the heart is unknown until it's expressed. So he means verbalized. So, therefore, the judgment in the Shafi'i school is that contracts need statements, verbalized statements. I sell this to you, I buy this from you, I rent this from you, I rent this to you, I hire you, etc. However, consent is not considered in some conditions, in some cases, like when one side cancels the sale despite the other, because you're still in the same session and you changed your mind before you separated. You don't have to say, do you agree? It's enough for you to say, I changed my mind. Here, give me my money back. Bro, it's like that? Yeah, it's like that. I'm sorry, Barakallahu Feek. Just give me my money back. That's it. Doesn't require his acceptance. Or when the judge has the authority to make another one transact. When the judge has the authority to make someone transact, like to support his wife or to pay his debts. Like if he's bankrupt and everybody sued him. They went to the Muslim judge. They said, Sheikh, this one here, he owes all of us. And then the judge looked into a situation and made him sell. That's valid. His consent is disregarded. He must sell whether he likes it or not now. And divorcing, it's one-sided. So he says to his wife, you are divorced, or I divorce you. And also returning the wife. So that divorce is one-sided. That return of the wife is one-sided. Doesn't require her acceptance. So even if she doesn't want to be returned, if he returns her before her iddah, she will be returned. So then again and again and again, the sisters need to be mindful who they marry. Don't be desperate to get married, and then you wind up in a very horrible situation. Everybody puts on his best behavior, men and women, in the beginning. They all want to make their best impression. Then once you move in, now all the masks are off. Also, the new partner is preemptively bought out by the old. That means even if he doesn't accept. So, this repetition is so good here, mentioning all these contracts again and again and again. So what's the partnership? This is a deal, sharika, in which all of the contributors physically put their similar money into the same pot. Not their virtual money transferred into one bank account. Their physical money. Go to the ATM and withdraw your physical bills if you're going to use bills. But you know what money means. Money is anything with monetary value. So whatever your money is, if your money is coffee, or your money is wheat, or your money is whatever else it is, physically mixing your similar money so that no one can tell whose is whose. Rather, what you do know, what you can tell is your percentage. If you said, I'm contributing $100, 10 tens. The other one says, I'm contributing $50, 5 tens. So now you know your percentages right there. And then you mix your tens together and you don't know whose are whose. So make sure they're all fresh new tens so that they all look the same. Now your partner's in that money. So partnership is one of the deals that can have more than two dealers. So what if you had 3 or 4 partners, and then one of your partners sold his share or gave his share as a dowry? Then the old partner or partners can immediately buy the new partner out, and he's out, like it or not. That's how Allah gave them the permission, the option to protect their investments. They don't know this new partner. But that's not in, if he inherited his share, you can't buy him out now. Your partner died, and part of the inheritance was his share. Now you have a new partner. This one you can't buy him out. Also, the one with debt is transferred to another. Debt transfer, so probably you know very well now. Debt transfer requires 3 dealers, A, B, and C. A owes B, B owes C. And there's conditions, of course. We're not talking all the conditions now. B transfers A to C. Then, now A has no word here. He can't say, no, I don't accept. Who told you I want to deal with C? So it's okay. You're just going to have to pay him anyway. Don't worry about it. Just relax. It's done. Hakada. A owes B, B owes C. Yani, one thing that makes this document we're going over different from the usual way you'll find rules of dealings is that all the definitions and conditions and integrals, not all, but so many of them, lots of them, are removed. And all that's left is the scenarios themselves. The scenarios are there, not the definitions of this contract and the condition of this contract and the integral of this contract. So, for example, sale. In regular books, they're going to say the sale, al-bay' is defined as such and such. And it has three integrals. And each of these integrals has conditions. So it's not here in this book. This book is presenting the deals to you as if you know what they are without a specific definition. So it's going to say sale, assuming you know what a sale is. A rental, assuming you know what a rental is, and like that. And 7, the father can give his virgin daughter in marriage without her consent under conditions. And no one can give the deflowered female in marriage unless she is pubescent and consenting. And some people think this is barbaric practice. It's not barbaric practice. They say, how is that? How could you put such an important thing in her father's hands like that? Because he's the man in her life who's going to take the best care of her anyway. Yeah, and of course we're talking general here. Your general case is that of all of her men, he's the one most concerned about her in the first place. He's not going to just give her in marriage to a loser. Not to mention that there's conditions. And no one can give the deflowered female in marriage unless she is pubescent and consenting. So if a female's not a virgin and she's not pubescent, then she cannot get married. She's not married. If she's not pubescent and she's not married and she's not a virgin, then she can't get married until she becomes pubescent. No one can give a deflowered female in marriage unless she's pubescent and consenting. Now, sometimes your contract has stipulations in it. That means conditions. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The very truthful tradesmen shall be gathered on resurrection day with the prophets, the siddiqs, and the martyrs." One must adhere to all valid stipulations of a contract. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-Muslimuna inda shurutihim." The Muslims adhere to their conditions. And the Muslim must not cheat. He cannot cheat, not even a kafir. You can't cheat him. Even according to the Hanafi school, that enables you more room to be able to deal with non-Muslims in dealings. That doesn't reach the level of cheating, though. So you cannot cheat a kafir, even. Like circulating counterfeit money, that's cheating. Or dyeing a slave's white hair black, that's cheating. Not even when dealing with a combatant. If you're in war and somehow you found yourself doing a deal with a soldier on the enemy, with an enemy soldier, you still can't cheat him. That's how the Muslims are. Islam is a just religion, is a right religion. Even in warfare, we're not the ones who are killing the women and children. It's the kuffar who are doing that, the non-Muslims. We don't even kill the old people if they're not fighting, because we're Muslims. And I'll take it a step further for you. Do you know how in battle, if you kill an enemy soldier or incapacitate him somehow, like you gouge his eyes out, for example, then you deserve everything he has. It's all yours. Doesn't mean you can take it on the spot, but it's yours. all his clothing, all his armor, any money in his pocket, any jewelry he has, his horse he's riding, it's all yours because he's the one that you incapacitated him. Even here, that's when you put your life on the line to do it. So you squared up with him and you fought him. You got the knife in your hands going back and forth like in the movies. Not like, though, what if you killed him in his sleep? You found him in his sleep. He's an enemy fighter, though, not civilian. You found him in his sleep and you killed him. Then you don't get that, Salab, all of that. Because we have such noble religion. You didn't put your life on the line to kill that one. Not every invalid stipulation invalidates the deal. This is important here. Not every invalid stipulation, invalid condition will invalidate the deal. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Like a condition of a man not marrying another wife. This will not invalidate the marriage, and the condition is invalid. He can still marry another wife even if he agreed not to. Or the condition for a partner to earn more money because he does more work. You know what partner means now in our lessons. I already described to you how to establish your partnership. So one partner says, I do all the work. You guys don't do anything. I should get paid more. This is an invalid condition. And even if they agreed to it, still invalid, and their partnership is still valid, though. The partnership is still valid, and the condition is invalid. He only deserves what coincides with his contribution, his original contribution. Not more, not less. No matter who works and who doesn't. Therefore, if someone says, I gift you this for the rest of your life. I give this to you as a gift for the rest of your life. So there's condition there. For the rest of your life. Or if he says, I give you this, and if you die before me, I take it back. This gift is valid. And the condition is invalid. The gift is valid, and the condition is invalid. Why? Because one would not own something unless he were alive. When he says to you, I give you this gift for the rest of your life. Okay. Yeah, and he's implying something, he's getting at something, but that thing he's getting at doesn't harm the gift. Because it's going to be yours. You're alive. So it's valid. And if he says, if you die before me, I take it back, that's not going to harm the gift either. Because it's yours. You're alive. You took it. It's yours. Now, when you die, it goes to your heirs. The condition is invalid. And the gift is valid. However, if he says to you, I give you this house as long as I'm alive, you can have this house as long as I'm alive. Or you can have this house as long as mom is alive, for example, or as long as so-and-so is alive, then this is not a valid gift. This condition harms the validity of the gift. And when it comes to tending, there cannot be a condition on either side to do the duty of the other. Tending, what's the tending? The tending is musaqah. That's when you're tending to palm trees and grapevines only. The religion restricted that to this, not any other type of tree. For any other type of tree, you have to do regular hiring. Regular hiring, not tending contract. But for palm trees and grapevines, you can do tending contract. In this case, he's going to get paid a percentage not a specific salary. And his work, he's a gardener basically. So as a gardener, what he doesn't have to do as a gardener, he doesn't have to build a wall. He doesn't have to dig a trench. That's your job as the owner of the land. If you're the landlord, then building walls and digging trenches is your job. He's the gardener. The difference, how are you going to know the difference? The difference is that the gardener's work is repetitive. He's going to do his work, and then he's going to come back and do it again. And then he's going to come back and do it again. Your work as the landlord, building a wall or digging a trench, it's not repetitive. You're going to build the wall and it's done now. So intending, there cannot be a condition for either side to do the job or the duty of the other. The landlord is not going to agree to do any gardening, and the gardener is not going to agree to do any construction on the land, for example. This condition invalidates the deal. And a sale cannot be contingent upon something extraneous, some outside condition, a condition that has nothing to do with the sale. I'll sell you this if my dad comes home. Say to him, remove the condition. Just sell it to me. Because this condition has nothing to do with the sale. As opposed to, for example, if you said to him, I'll sell it to you if your money is real. This doesn't harm. Also, a marriage cannot be made contingent upon something extraneous. Like, I give my daughter in marriage to you if my dad comes home. It's not valid. And one last thing here, we still really didn't get into the statements. Statements from one side, statements from both sides. We're not going to get into that this week. But one last thing here before we stop is expirations. Some things can expire and some things can't, as far as the contract is concerned. So a sale cannot have an expiration, because then basically is a rental. And a sale is not a rental. So you can't sell for a limited time and then it's not going to be his anymore, because that's a rental. So selling, doing a rental with the word sale is invalid, in other words. To rent something to someone using the word sale in the contract is invalid, because then you're going to be selling it to him temporarily. Nor a marriage. A marriage cannot have an expiration, because that's basically prostitution. To say to her, do this contract with me and you're lawful for me for the next week or the next month or the next hour. That's prostitution. And then it's over after that. When the time expires, we can go our separate ways. That's prostitution. Mut'ah. Invalid. And returning the wife doesn't have an expiration. You don't say, I returned my wife for 3 months. Giving a reward doesn't have an expiration. Like you say, whoever finds my cat gets $100. You don't put an expiration on there. Or the profit sharing. One side has the money, the other does the trading. You can't put an expiration on there. Rather, you can just sell out the product, for example. Sell all the product, for example. And then that's it. And it's over. Co-signing cannot have an expiration, but lending can, lending an item. And giving a loan, a monetary loan, you can say, you can hold my car until Monday. Or I'll loan you $100 until Monday. You owe me on Monday, for example. A rental by time has to expire. So say I'm renting this house for a month. Or I'm renting this car for the weekend. It's going to expire. It must expire by time. And tending, it must expire, but it has to be at least long enough for the trees to bear fruits. And lastly, someone who finds a lost and find item, he has to wait for a year before laying claim. Then when he wants to lay claim, he's been holding on to it for a year, He's been doing the proper advertisement throughout the year. When he's ready to lay claim, he has to verbally say, even without witnesses, I now take possession of this. And then that's valid. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.